Welcome to 21st Century Faith. 21st Century Faith is a program brought to you by Aspect Ministries and features topics and guests that explore contemporary ways of reaching younger people and unchurched adults with the unchanging good news of the gospel. Now here's our speaker, the founder and director of Aspect Ministries, pastor, teacher, and author, Mike Bogart.
Hello everybody and welcome to 21st Century Faith. I'm Michael Bogart, host of the show, and it's brought to you by Aspect Ministries and by its educational training division, Mind Cuisine. Aspect Ministries is all about effective 21st century faith, which is the name of the show. And Mind Cuisine is all about learning made easy. It's all about training materials that help people understand important core issues, controversial issues of our time. So I'm very excited to present this program, very excited to be with you tonight, and thank you for watching. Some of you were all prepared for this debut. You were aware of it. We sent out some email blasts and some Facebook postings in the last few days telling you it was going to be airing tonight, and some of you are tuning in and faithfully watching, and for that we thank you very much. Glad to have you with us. I hope we won't disappoint you on this show. Others of you just happen to be watching this station at this time. So let me take a few moments to convince you, or to at least explain why I think that this show is going to be different. 21st Century Faith is all summed up in the title itself. It's all about how to experience effective Christian faith in the times that we're living in. Now, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but these days in the early 21st century are very different than they were 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Life now in the internet age and in the age of a global village really is very different than what many of us remember growing up in our earlier years. And so it's going to require some different techniques, some different perspectives to be effective in the 21st century when it comes to Christian faith. Now, let me tell you what the show is not going to be. This show is not about me or any of our guests criticizing what people are doing already. We're all about what the church is doing today. The Christian church in its many varieties and facets is doing some wonderful things around the world. We would not for anything try to take away from that. So this is not a criticism of Christianity as it is today. It's also not us saying that we know better than anybody else, that we're the experts on what it means to be effective in the 21st century as Christians. There are many people talking about these issues. We're just one voice among many. It's also not a show that's supposed to generate controversy and argument. This is not a forum for, sharing views of one kind or another in order to generate arguments. There's plenty of those shows around. We don't need another one, in my opinion. What this show is all about doing is exploring ways in which we can be more effective as people who follow Jesus Christ in the 21st century in North America and in the western parts of the world. Now, I've had the opportunity to travel in many parts of the world in the last few years. I've trained Christians in developing countries in Africa, in Latin America, in the Caribbean, and other places, and I've had contact with Christian leaders from other parts of the world as well. And what is going on in those places is very different in some ways than what's going on in North America. We're going to focus on the North American situation on this show. We might allude to some of the activities and events and happenings in some of the other parts of the world from time to time, but the focus of this show is how to be effective Christians in North America in the 21st century. This is not a show in which we're going to be shouting at people. If there's anything that I think we need to learn for the 21st century, it's the fact that as believers, we need to be people of peace. We need to be people of truth. We need to be people of reasonability, if I can use that word. Far too often we've been accused of being the kind of people that divide folks. I hope this show is an opportunity to bring folks together. Folks that are already following Jesus, and there are many varieties. There's a huge spectrum of Christian groups that I hope that this show is going to be a focal point for all of them. But also for folks that haven't found Jesus yet, that are not following Jesus yet, and that might if they just saw him as he really is. So I don't want this to be a divisive show. I want us to also talk about what we call civil discourse in this show. Now, we're all aware of the kinds of programs in which people shout at each other, and the whole purpose of the show is to generate argument. This is a show in which we're going to learn to talk respectfully to those who disagree with us. We may indeed have some guests on the show that are not at all following Jesus, that are not at all about Christianity. If we have those folks on the show, we're going to learn how to talk respectfully to them and to present an atmosphere in which ideas can be heard fairly, even if we end up disagreeing with them. So it's a learning process. We're going to learn together how to talk nice to people that we disagree with. And I believe that one of the things we can do on this show is to set the agenda for what we call civil discourse. Now, is Jesus relevant in the 21st century? Well, of course he is. He's as relevant in the 21st century as he ever was in any of the 20 centuries that precede this, because he was the greatest person, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many millions of people, the greatest person that ever lived, the kindest, the wisest, the most truthful, the most helpful, and in many ways the most amazing person that ever lived. But not only that, we as Christians believe that Jesus is alive. He rose from the dead, that he is Lord of all, and that as the Son of God, he has the answer not only to death, but to life itself and living here in this world. And so Jesus is absolutely as relevant in the 21st century as he ever was. That's something we hope to discuss and explore on this show. Okay, I want to take the remaining parts of this segment and I want to probe a little deeper into why I believe this show is so urgently needed in the times that we're living in. About a month ago, I don't know if you read the papers, but about a month ago, there was a report that came out all across the nation from a group called the Pew Research Center. And they did a study on why millennials are dropping out of religious activity. And so let me just see if I can get this right. I want to read my figures correctly, but as I probed the article that was reported in the papers, they reported that in 2007, now that's just 8 years ago, 25% of millennials, on the older end of the millennial spectrum, 25% said that they were religiously unaffiliated. So let me stop for just a minute and define what we mean by the word millennial. Millennial is that generation of young people that is between the ages of 18 and 35 years of age. So they're the ones that were born beginning around 1981 and that were continued to come into this world until about the year 2000. So there's about a 20-year generation in there that we're talking about, 18 to 35-year-olds. So just 8 years ago, 2007, 25% of the older end of that generation, the ones born between 81 and 89, they said they were religiously unaffiliated. 1/4 of that generation had no religious affiliation. They surveyed that same group just this last year. 34% are now religiously unaffiliated. So if you do the math, that's 9% increase in unaffiliation with any religion just in the last 8 years. That should cause us to sit up and take notice. Something is going on in terms of trends with the millennial generation. There were no figures 8 years ago for the younger end of the millennials, those born beginning about 1990 and on to about 2000. They were too young to survey at the time. But they were included in the survey just this last year, and 36% of that younger end of the millennial spectrum is unaffiliated with any religious group. That's a lot of people, folks. And that's a huge loss. If you think about it, what's going to happen to the church of Jesus in the world in about 2 decades if things don't change? We are going to see a lot smaller number of Christians and a lot older population of Christians, which means a lot less influence if we don't turn things around. We'll talk more about that in the next segment. So let me just see if I can mine the gold out of this report and draw some conclusions. First of all, one of the things that the Pew Research report indicated was that all religious groups lost people, not just Christians. Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, everybody lost young people. They apparently don't like to affiliate with organized religious groups. However, many of them do privately practice some sort of spirituality, And that's something that I think we can engage in, because at its essence, Christianity is not an organized association or an organized institution. Christianity is a personal relationship. It's an inner thing. We need to tap into that. Secondly, across the spectrum of Christian groups, there's an alarming trend in which people raised in the church, young people who went to all the programs and went through all the stages that churches had to offer, are abandoning active Christian faith. For example, the Barna Research Organization. Barna was started by people that had their beginnings in the Gallup poll industry. And so these folks started the Barna Research Organization. They found in a 2011 survey that, for example, Roman Catholics, they're losing 57% of the young people that grew up active Catholics. Well, what about the Protestant side of the equation? Evangelical Protestants are losing 61% of their young people. People that went through the Sunday school programs, people that went through all the youth groups activities, 61% are dropping out. Now, that doesn't mean some of them won't come back later after marriage or some other life change. But it means that many of them, however, are going to stay gone unless something changes. Something that I think we need to remember here is that we've got a big call to action. And that's one of the main purposes of this show. One of the important components of 21st Century Faith is reaching what I call the absent generation. The absent generation are those millennials that are either walking away from a faith that they once claimed, or those who never really got engaged in the first place. It's an important component of effective 21st century faith. We're going to be exploring that. And so with that in mind, we're going to be coming up on a commercial break here in just a few seconds. And if you've got comments or questions that you'd like to pose to us, you might want to email those in. I would assume that those are emailed into centralvalleytalk.com. We've got an opportunity for you to email some questions into us. But this show is 21st Century Faith. And if you've got comments or questions, we'll put that information up on the screen. We'll be happy to try to field your questions or react to your comments. Remember, this is a positive forum, so let's keep it that way. And so we'll see you in just a few seconds after the commercial break.
Open house this Saturday in the Tower District. This house is located at 1244 North Echo, 3 houses north of Olive in the heart of the Tower District. Stop by this Saturday between 1 and 3 p.m. or call 486-6758 or go to MikeBriggsProperties.com. See all Tower District listings by all agents at TowerDistrictProperties.com.
MPS Security, Fresno's premier private security and investigative services. They exceed expectations. Call them at 559-478-7747.
We are conveniently located across from Bullard High School on North Palm Avenue in Fig Garden. Morales Wellness Dental offers quality-oriented family dental care and service in a personalized and comfortable manner. As you enter our office, you'll always be greeted by our warm, caring dental team and will be invited to relax in our finely appointed lobby. We have 7 patient treatment suites that feature monitors for your in-op entertainment and diagnostic review. Our comfortable hygienist suites are the ideal setting for regular cleanings and checkups. As safety is our utmost priority, all instruments are put through our modern sterilization center. Furthermore, our sedation suite offers you both comfort and peace of mind during advanced dental procedures. And for your privacy, we have 2 separate patient consultation offices. Take the worry out of your next dental visit by calling us today. Experience our commitment to excellence, respect, and honesty at Morales Wellness Dental.
Whether your wedding is rustic, vintage, formal, traditional, casual, elegant, or just a little outside the box, Black Tie and Bridal Lace has everything you need to dress your entire wedding party. Are you currently shopping for solar? Give Solar Negotiators a call. You see, what they do is they fill downtime at a reduced rate to make sure that you always get the best deal. Don't find out later that you could have bought your solar for thousands of dollars less. Call Solar Negotiators.
If you're looking to go solar with confidence and have someone represent you in this transaction, give Solar Negotiators a call at 844-OWN-SOLAR or visit solarnegotiators.com.
Looking for a travel agent? Look no further. Bianca Echeveste can make your travel dream a reality, even on a budget. Visit ilovemytravelbiz.com or call Bianca at 559-284-2217.
Marty, the concrete guy, specializes in all types of concrete work. Contact Marty at theconcreteguy.com or call him at 559-718-9952. Located on Avenue 9, Toca Madera Winery's beautiful tasting room overlooks undulating hills covered with majestic vines, a perfect place to taste wine. Call Toca Madera Winery at 474-8286 or visit them on the web at tocamaderawinery.com.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Hey, we're back with 21st Century Faith. I want to show you a little video clip I put together about this whole issue of the millennial generation, the absent generation. And so with that in mind, I want to roll that clip and then we'll talk a little bit about it after it's over. Hi, I'm Michael Bogart, founder of Aspect Ministries. After nearly 40 years in Christian ministry, I founded Aspect because, frankly, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the way things are in the church and in the world. I'm even more concerned about the future, and maybe you share my concern as well. For instance, according to a Barna research poll conducted in 2011, Christian churches are losing around 60% of their Christian young people, starting in their teen years. And this phenomenon is happening across the spectrum of organized Christian bodies in North America. I understand that some church leaders have argued that young people checking out of church has always been a problem, and that's true, but not to this drastic extent. And it's certainly true that some of these absent young people will eventually find their way back due to marriage or some other life change. But many may be gone permanently unless we do something to reach them soon. And keep in mind that this 60% figure isn't even counting the large number from this millennial generation that were never part of any organized Christian body. I call this problem the crisis of the absent generation because this 18 to 35-year-old group is noticeably absent from visible Christianity. Then there's what can only be described as the challenge of ideas. Gone are the days when the majority of people looked at life and the world from a more or less Christian point of view. Long gone. The Christian worldview is now only one of a number of ways that people look at reality. For example, groups like the New Atheism, Humanism, Islam, and ideas from a spectrum of groups called the New Age movement are not only in competition with Christianity, but are pushing it to the sidelines of the public forum. Okay, I know this sounds pretty negative, so let's switch gears a bit. In some parts of the world, Christianity is growing rapidly, and that's a very good thing. Asia, Latin America, Africa, and Eastern Europe are experiencing sustained growth of Christianity. The problem is that in many places, these new Christians do not have leaders who have adequate training in the essentials of the faith or in the kind of leadership that is both effective and kingdom-minded. This situation represents the demand for Christian leadership training in the developing world. Obviously, poorly trained church leaders often leave churches open to the abuses of power and doctrine. Now, stop and consider. If these trends don't change, what will Christianity look like in 25 or 30 years? Please understand, I'm not an alarmist. What I've just described is pretty obvious. If you haven't noticed these things already, just look around. This is the reality of the early 21st century. Now, the church around the world is already doing lots of amazing things, so there's much to feel very positive about. But here's the point. Although so much of what Christians are doing in the world is wonderful and should cause us to rejoice, the issues I have just listed, the crisis of the absent generation, the challenge of ideas, and the demand for training in the developing church should not be considered as just more wonderful things we should do. These three issues are essentials. We simply must turn things around in these areas, or the effective influence of Christ's church will be greatly diminished in the years ahead. In other words, reaching the absent generation, meeting the challenges of ideas, and training Christian leaders, especially in the developing world, these are game changers. They're non-negotiables. We simply have to get them done. So here's the purpose of our ministry. Aspect Ministries assists people to be effective followers of Jesus in the 21st century. We're accomplishing this purpose by promoting culturally winsome ways of communicating authentic Christian faith, training Christian leaders through providing basic biblical tools such as online courses and training materials, and fostering conversations with those outside Christian faith that are productive for God's kingdom. What can we do for you? Aspect Ministries is a tool that churches and Christian organizations can access to enhance their ministry. We speak at conferences and services. We provide training seminars, and we supply study materials and media that will help you be more effective in the areas that we've been talking about. For instance, we have a line of videos, books, and study guides on Islam, the cults, and on the Bible itself that are brief, they're easy to understand, and helpful as starting points for sharing the Christian faith. Aspect Ministries provides online classes through Aspect Leadership Institute that specialize in equipping Christians to be effective in sharing their faith. In other words, we can help you be more effective in reaching the absent generation, in training leaders in your church and in your missions projects, and in how to talk to people who are involved in other religions and ideologies. How can you cooperate with us? Of course, we need your prayers. As president of Aspect, I have sensed God's blessing on what we've been doing from the very beginning. But we need God's continuing guidance and provision. Please, put us on your prayer calendar. We would love to be part of your missions program or your missions giving as well. Again, we believe that what we're doing is very strategic. Then, we need your help in getting the word out about Aspect. People need to be aware of what we can do to help churches and individual Christians be more effective in these very specific areas. And finally, we're looking for people who may sense a calling to work with us. Our contact information is listed at the end of this video. Now, before I close, I'm reminded that our Lord Jesus promised that the good news would spread around the earth and that the gates of Hades would not prevail against us. These are indeed words of great comfort and hope. Yet they should not be interpreted in a way that encourages complacency or that excuses us if we do nothing. No. At Aspect Ministries, we are certainly not the only ones who are talking about these things. But Aspect Ministries is all about doing something to assist the church, the whole church, into an effective future. We provide concrete things that can be done to help change these trends. To find out more about how you can be involved, check out our website at www.aspectministries.com. Thanks for listening. With God, we can change the direction of the future. I'm Michael Bogart for Aspect Ministries, and Aspect Ministries is all about effective 21st century faith. Hey, we're back with 21st Century Faith. I hope you enjoyed that promotional video talking about what Aspect Ministries is all about. And of course, we'll be exploring a lot of those issues over the course of this show. I'd like to do something really quick right now. I'd like to welcome my very first guest onto the show. She's an old friend of mine, in fact, a very old friend of mine. She's been my wife for 36 years. Melinda, we're so glad to have you on the show. I love you very much, and thank you for being the guinea pig on the guest slot here.
That's how it works. That's good.
Yeah. So she's been my partner in ministry for all these years, and we've done campus ministry together. Many years ago, we were pastoring a local church down in the community of Lemoore for 18 years. She's been with me on mission trips where we've taught pastors and Christian leaders in the developing world. And of course, right by my side in this venture as well with Aspect Ministries. So we're going to do some discussion of some of these issues in just a minute, but I just wanted to welcome you to the show. But right now, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of our training materials with Aspect Ministries. And so if you just put on the 45-minute Bible, the 45-minute Bible is a great resource that churches and Christian groups and Bible studies and individuals can use. It's obviously not a lot of detail in the Bible, but it gives you a bird's eye view, an overview of what's in there. We talk about why we have the books in it that we do. We talk about the divisions in the Old Testament and the New Testament. We talk about some of the issues that contemporary people bring up about the Bible. So I feel like this is an indispensable resource that Christians need to have. It also comes right embedded in the video. It comes with some discussion questions that groups can use. So this is the type of thing that Aspect Ministries provides, along with a lot of other videos like this one I have here in my hand. This was on the New Age movement. It kind of helps you get a handle on what this New Age movement is all about. And we have a number of others. They can be ordered off our website, www.mindcuisine. Remember, Mind Cuisine is our educational media site, www.mindcuisine.com. You can go there and order the materials. Melinda, let's get back to you. Just introduce yourself to us before we go to commercial break.
I'm Melinda Bogart. I have been married to Mike, as he said, for 36 years, and born and raised here in the Valley in Fresno, and have been right alongside him in the various types of ministries that we've been led to do. As active as possible, and certainly as supportive as I possibly can be with where we feel God's called us to spread His word.
Now, you might want to talk about our kids.
We have 4 kids, and they're not kids anymore. They're all adults. 3 of them are married. We have 8 grandchildren, perfect grandchildren, and our youngest son is not yet married, but that's okay. He can take his time on that one.
Yeah, we're very proud of all of our children and our grandchildren as well. And it's been a real adventure, hasn't it been? To try to be a family in the midst of a very busy, active ministry life. And of course, they always talk about how the pastor gets the pats on the back. Pastor's wife sometimes has a little different experience. And of course, you've been through all the spectrum of wonderful experiences and maybe not so wonderful, but it's been a real adventure, hasn't it been? And I think you'd agree it's worth it.
Quite a ride. Yes, it has. It's been a fantastic life. Yeah.
Right. So before we go to commercial break, why don't you just talk a little bit about your thoughts about Aspect Ministries?
With all of the experiences that we've had working with people, we wanted to be able to put it into a program that would help other people, that they could take with them, or that they types of training that we've done overseas, but then also to be able to do that here on the home front and to make it available for people to also do what we do. And we also have a heart for being real with people and helping them to know how to show a real living faith in all that they do.
Great. And of course, you've been a great example to a lot of people. People looked up to you. People love you. I mean, it's one of those things, it's kind of not fair. She's the one that warms up the room, and I have to be the kind of the heavy guy. But we'll talk more about that after the break.
Open house this Saturday in the Tower District. This house is located at 1244 North Echo, 3 houses north of Olive in the heart of the Tower District. Stop by this Saturday between 1 and 3 p.m. or call 486-6758 or go to MikeBriggsProperties.com. See all Tower District listings by all agents at TowerDistrictProperties.com.
This segment is brought to you by Jonathan Rooker of the Law Office of Nuttall & Coleman. We help good people during tough times. Call 441-0441.
Black MP makes up for nutrients lost to filtering, pasteurization, and processing, and it provides the probiotics and humic and fulvic minerals that can lead to optimized functioning of all the body's cells and systems, increased energy levels, and overall enhanced health and well-being. A scoop of Black MP in 16 ounces of water once or twice a day can help you achieve your health and performance goals. For more information, go to our website, blackmp.net, or call us at 559-799-9879.
A reverse mortgage can help your money last longer and help you leave a larger estate for your heirs. To learn how, call Patrick Furlong at 559-213-7767 or visit patrickfurlongreversemortgagedirect.com.
No matter what you drive, sooner or later you're going to need tires. That means you. It's Wheel King, your custom wheel and tire headquarters for over 20 years. Hundreds of custom wheels and tires in stock all the time. Shocks, brake jobs, alignments, and lowering done the right way. The King has got you covered.
The tire wheel, Wheel King. No one else can get attention.
Call 225-KING. Blackstone, just off the Shaw. It's Wheel King.
Looking for work? Tired of minimum wage? For as low as $200, become certified as a forklift driver at the Certified Forklift Training Center. Call 559-325-8097 or visit cftc.net.
At Loss Prevention and Safety Consulting, we collaborate with business owners to protect their profits from theft, fraud, and other financial misappropriations. Call us today for a free initial consultation and put your profits back to work for you.
You enter this door with expired tags. Beyond is another dimension, a dimension of regulations, a dimension of long waits. You have reached the registration zone. What looks like an ordinary shop is actually Mitchell Smog, located in the heart of the Tower District, a few minutes from the DMV. Mitchell Smog offers your vehicle a STAR-certified smog inspection. So remember Mitchell Smog when you need to pass through the registration zone.
Hey, we're back with 21st Century Faith. Thanks for joining us. If you just came in, we're talking about issues related to effective 21st century Christian faith. That's what this show is all about, and we're going to be exploring that over the next weeks and in the segments that remain. So thanks for joining us. And if you've been with us the whole time during this show, we're grateful that you stuck with us, and thank you for watching. I have as my first guest on this show ever my dear wife of 36 years, Melinda, and she's with us very patiently, putting up with all of the banter back and forth. But we did have some questions that I wanted her to answer and to talk about on the air with you, because we've talked endlessly about some of these issues relating to millennials, how to bring millennial young people back to active Christian faith, and some of those things related to that. So Melinda, let's talk about some of these issues that we've talked about personally. Let's start with, what is it that really kind of got our attention, if you remember, on this issue?
Of the absent generation.
Of the absent generation, the missing millennials.
I would say that we're talking about them as a generation, but our age, is also a generation of parents that are seeing our children show a lack of interest in the Christian faith, in our Christian faith. And this faith and this life in Christ is the central issue of life. And we don't want to see them turn away. The fact is, though, that we're expecting them to respond to our way of faith, and it's not working. They're not interested in what is so very, very important to us.
So you're saying that we've expected them to pick up our faith, the way that we've walked with Jesus Christ, and that appears to be somewhat uninteresting to many of them. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, both of us are baby boomers. I'm a sort of an early baby boomer, and you're a late baby boomer. From 1946, 1964, that's our generation, and we were the young people once, if we remember that. But what do you see as someone from this baby boomer generation? What do you see as causing millennials to drop out of organized faith? You mentioned that it's the expectation of the parents a little bit, but what else do you see?
I don't think they see it as a relevant part of their life. They certainly don't see it as the primary purpose of their life. And, God, or their perception of who God is, it doesn't fit in with who they want to be.
Okay, so is it a matter of miscommunication by our generation? Have the churches dropped the ball in some way? I mean, what are the factors in that, do you think?
Well, it's kind of sad. I mean, I think their outside education, their school education, things like that, it is more attractive to them than what they've been raised to believe, and it has a different reasoning than what we've given to them, and they are deciding to be their own person, and to do that causes them to even step away, maybe not even trust what it is that we have all these years raised them and told them was the truth.
So do you think a lot of it's just spreading their wings, trying to find their own personal identity? That's a big factor, you think, in what they're going through?
This is not saying that this is true, but this is what I see, what I perceive, is that they are so much wanting reality and truth. They really are seeking truth, and they don't believe us.
Credibility issue.
Yeah. So.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the parents' perspective before we go on. As a Christian parent, you've talked with many other Christian parents who are, struggling with this issue. Their kids are not interested in going to church or Christian programs, and they're not interested in practicing, at least an outward personal Christian faith. And as we've talked with people who've had this kind of experience, what have their reactions been? What's the feeling? What's going on with these Christian parents? How are they feeling?
Well, okay, this is a catalyst for the Christian parents, and it's a catalyst for us to change, and that is that it's necessary to change ourselves. I think we're looking at this wanting to change these kids, but as always with most difficult situations, it takes both sides. And so the change that we need to bring in ourselves, all that we've done to encourage our children and to train them in the way of this faith is because we wanted the very, very best for them. And to see them reject the Christian lifestyle is like a kick in the gut. And that's because of how we take it so personally. And we're hurt, we're mad, we have all kinds of reactions. And to be really honest, the change that needs to take place in us is that if any of our reactions to what they have chosen at this point have anything to do with pride, pride in what we did, all that we did for them, or pride in ourselves and our reputation, if any of that involves pride, that's an issue that we need to deal with in ourselves.
So you're thinking that a lot of the emotions in Christian parents who are experiencing, their kids disconnecting with the Christian faith, a lot of that has to do with them. It's not so much there's a part that has to do with the kids, but a lot of it's inside the parents themselves in terms of expectations.
Yeah, please. Understand, I'm not saying it's just us. It isn't, but it takes both to realize that there are areas that need to be changed. And if we look at this rejection of our kids, of what we gave so much of ourselves for, what we gave our lives for, or whatever, if we look at it, we have to remember that this isn't about us. It's about them. And it's about their faith and their life.
So in other words, what we're after is not them fulfilling our expectations. We're after them making their own choice to embrace Jesus Christ and follow him as he's calling them to follow him.
It's a personal decision that they need to make, and we need to let go of our expectations.
Yeah. So that's good, very good insight. Well, so let me ask you this question. What are some of your ideas for drawing these absent young people back to some sort of active, personal Christian faith?
I think there's probably just a few words, and then you can embellish those. Give them your time and undivided attention, and get to know them and show that you truly care about them. And once again, I'm not trying to make parents guilty or angry, probably is what you may be reacting, the way you may be reacting to me. But get to know them and show that you truly care about who they are. Let them get to know you. That's where the time comes in, giving them your time. Invite them into your life. It doesn't have to be just parents and their children. There's a lot of people concerned about this generation. So the way you reach out to them is first to let them see how you are real. And that involves bringing them into your life, an interest that you think you may share or that they could share with you. You may be surprised. You may think they aren't interested at all in you or in what you do, but they are. There are things that they'd like to learn from you.
Okay, so I think the word we've come up with, which we didn't invent, of course, but the word's mentoring. Mm-hmm. Mentoring sort of capsulizes the passing on of authentic faith from one generation to another. Mm-hmm. And of course, we believe that mentoring is a huge component in effective 21st century faith. So we've only got a couple minutes before the next commercial break, but talk a little bit about what's been going on Sunday nights around our place and around a group of people that we've been associated with.
I believe it's been 3 years?
Well, it's 2.5.
Okay. There was good conversation between our son and you. I mean, he's a good talker, and like I said, this is a generation that wants genuineness, wants honesty, wants to believe things. And so talking has always been a really good way of getting that out. So we decided to say, well, how about would you and your friends be interested in coming to our house? Come to our house and let's spend some time, maybe a night a week. You pick the night, you pick the time, and we'll just start talking about some of these things that you are, upset about or that you don't agree with in the Christian faith that you see. And to our surprise, they were very interested, and they took us up on it. And they picked a night, started it at our home. I feed them every week. This is how it started. After about a year, we were able to share it with the other parents wanted to do the same. And so we started sharing the venue to all these homes, and the parent there would cook for them. So you feed them. That's an important thing to do, important element. We let them choose a name. We came up with something kind of cute. We thought round pegs. Let's call them round pegs because, trying to fit a round peg in a square hole of Christian doctrine that they don't want. They thought that was too cute. So they said, well, let's call it our church. Let's call it Man Church. So that's what we've had for the last 2.5 years in our home and in these other homes. Man Church. They sit and they talk. They bring up issues that they'd like to discuss, and it's fantastic. It's very, for us, we chose just young men. It can be any kind of group, but for us, that's where we started. The dads started coming, and so then it became young men's and their dads, and
we've seen a lot of
development from that.
A lot of mentoring going on, and if you remember, the first couple of months that we met, it was just the anger. We talked about all the anger and all the disappointment that these young men had kind of built up over the years, And it was really maybe 3 or 4 months into it before we started talking about things that were not related to their anger, and we started talking about all sorts of issues from social issues to Bible problems, Bible, difficult passages, doctrine, relationships, almost anything you can think of.
Scientific arguments, things like that. Yeah.
So we'll pick this up when we come back.
Open house this Saturday in the Tower District. This house is located at 1244 North Echo, 3 houses north of Olive in the heart of the Tower District. Stop by this Saturday between 1 and 3 p.m. or call 486-6758 or go to MikeBriggsProperties.com. See all Tower District listings by all agents at TowerDistrictProperties.com.
MPS Security, Fresno's premier private security and investigative services. They exceed expectations. Call them at 559-478-7747.
We are conveniently located across from Bullard High School on North Palm Avenue in Fig Garden. Morales Wellness Dental offers quality-oriented family dental care and service in a personalized and comfortable manner. As you enter our office, you'll always be greeted by our warm, caring dental team and will be invited to relax in our finely appointed lobby. We have 7 patient treatment suites that feature monitors for your in-op entertainment and diagnostic review. Our comfortable hygienist suites are the ideal setting for regular cleanings and checkups. As safety is our utmost priority, all instruments are put through our modern sterilization center. Furthermore, our sedation suite offers you both comfort and peace of mind during advanced dental procedures. And for your privacy, we have 2 separate patient consultation offices. Take the worry out of your next dental visit by calling us today. Experience our commitment to excellence, respect, and honesty at Morales Wellness Dental.
Whether your wedding is rustic, vintage, formal, traditional, casual, elegant, or just a little outside the box, black tie and bridal lace has everything you need to dress your entire wedding party. Are you currently shopping for solar? Give Solar Negotiators a call. You see, what they do is they fill downtime at a reduced rate to make sure that you always get the best deal. Don't find out later that you could have bought your solar for thousands of dollars less. Call Solar Negotiators.
If you're looking to go solar with confidence and have someone represent you in this transaction, give Solar Negotiators a call at 844-OWN-SOLAR or visit SolarNegotiators.com.
Looking for a travel agent? Look no further. Bianca Echeveste can make your travel dream a reality, even on a budget. Visit ilovemytravelbiz.com or call Bianca at 559-284-2217.
Marty, the concrete guy, specializes in all types of concrete work. Contact Marty at theconcreteguy.com or call him at 559-718-9952. Located on Avenue 9, Toca Madera Winery's beautiful tasting room overlooks undulating hills covered with majestic vines. A perfect place to taste wine. Call Toca Madera Winery at 474-8286 or visit them on the web at tocamadeirawinery.com.
Central.
Hey, we're back with our 4th segment of 21st Century Faith. Glad you're still with us. If you've just joined us, this is a show about effective Christian faith in the 21st century. And my name is Michael Bogart with Aspect Ministries, and we'll be hosting this show to explore ways of being more effective as Christians in the 21st century. Well, we've come to the segment of the show that I like to call the mentoring moment. We, in our previous segment, we talked about an important component of 21st century faith, Christian faith, is this idea of intergenerational mentoring, where one generation passes on its authentic Christian faith to another, and almost like passing off a baton in a relay race. Well, this mentoring moment is a way of illustrating that. When I started mentioning about the show, my father, who's in his 80s, has got really excited about this. And of course, my dad has been my mentor for all my life, well into my middle age, and still is there for me when I need him, along with my mom, who's also that way. But my dad wanted to write a little bit of a column for this, and so he calls it Letters from Mount Olivet, and it's about a small town like the one that we spent some time in when I was younger. And so this is the first of the Letters from Mount Olivet in our mentoring moment. So I'm just going to read it for you just as it is. He talked about how Ed the cop, who was our cop back in that little Midwestern town, used to wait on Main Street for the speeders to come by and give them tickets so that the city would have some money to operate on. And he talked about Pastor Hastings and the church, and so this is kind of as though this were happening in the church of that little town that we grew up in. After a few of the usual Sunday evening hymns, the church's pastor slowly stood up and walked over to the pulpit. And before he gave his sermon for the evening, he briefly introduced a guest minister who was in the service. In the introduction, the pastor told the congregation that the guest minister was one of his dearest childhood friends, and that he wanted him to have a few moments to greet the church and share whatever he felt would be appropriate for the service. An elderly man stepped up to the pulpit and began to speak. A father, his son, and a friend of his son were sailing off the Pacific coast, he began, when a fast-approaching storm blocked any attempt to get back to the shore. The waves were so high that even though the father was an experienced sailor, he could not keep the boat upright, and the three were swept into the ocean and the boat capsized. The old man hesitated for a moment, making eye contact with two teenagers who were, for the first time since the service began looking somewhat interested. The aged minister continued. Grabbing a rescue line, the father had to make the most excruciating decision of his life. To which boy would he throw the other end of the lifeline? He only had seconds to make the decision. Now, the father knew that his son was a Christian, and he also knew that his son's friend was not. The agony of the decision could not be matched by the torrent of the waves. As the father yelled out, "I love you, son," by the time the father had pulled his young son's friend back to the boat, the son had disappeared beneath the raging swells into the black of night, and his body was never recovered. Well, by this time, the two teenagers were sitting up straight in the pew, anxiously waiting for the next words. The father, he continued, knew his son would step into eternity with Jesus, and he could not bear the thought of his son's friend stepping into an eternity without Jesus. Therefore, he sacrificed his son to save the son's friend. How great is the love that God gave us, that he should do the same for us. Our Heavenly Father sacrificed his only begotten Son, Jesus, that we could be saved. I urge you to accept his offer to rescue you and take a hold of the lifeline he is throwing out to you in this service. And with that, the old man turned and sat back down in his chair, and silence filled the room. The pastor again walked slowly to the pulpit and delivered a brief sermon with an invitation at the end, but nobody responded. But within minutes after the service ended, the two teenagers were at the old man's side. That was a nice story, politely stated one of them, but I don't think it was very realistic for the father to give up his only son's life in hopes that the other boy would become a Christian. Well, you got a point there, the old man replied, glancing down at his worn Bible. A big smile broadened his narrow face, and then he looked up at the boys and said, "It sure isn't very realistic, is it? But I'm standing here today to tell you that that story gives me a glimpse of what it must have been like for God to give up his son for all of us. You see, I was that father, and your pastor is my son's friend." Now, my dad wrote that and offers that, I guess, as his contribution to this show. And thank you, Dad. I know you're watching, probably, and Mom, too. Hello out there. I could do the Carol Burnett thing and pull my ear. But it's great to have this input. And I think this illustrates in one way or another, how one generation can mentor another generation by passing on its wisdom. It's something we've been experimenting with on Sunday nights at Man Church, and I hope in the future to have some of these young guys and some of the dads on the program with us to talk a little bit about how that works, how you pass on authentic faith from one generation to another. It's our belief, isn't it, Melinda, that we want to see this sort of thing happen on a large scale, because if we as Christians in this generation don't learn how to mentor effectively, that generation is going to not engage with Jesus Christ.
That's right.
And that's a scary thought. So I would say one of the things we're going to be exploring on this show is this whole idea of how we learn to mentor people. See, I think that one of the things the church has done is done a good job of programming people. We've designed very good programs. They tend to be very excellent. The volunteer rate with people running these programs is very high, and the dedication level is very admirable. But I think one of the drawbacks of programming is that we've separated the generations, and we need to get back to the generations being together and kind of their faith rubbing off on each other. And I think that's one of the really positive things that we saw back in our ministry when we were pastoring our own church, was that we had an awful lot of opportunities to mentor as older people mentored younger people. So anyway, that's one of the things we're going to be talking about. So we're almost done with this segment of 21st Century Faith. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, we're going to invite you to respond to some of the issues on this show. Remember, we're learning to talk in what we call civil discourse, so we're going to invite your constructive comments. But you can email those comments to me this week at mike@aspectministries.com. That's Mike, M-I-K-E, at aspectministries.com. And if you'd like to share your comments about any of the issues we've discussed, the missing millennials or the absent generation, what do we do about that? Is that as much a problem in your experience as it seems to be with the polling data? What about civil discourse? We should talk a little bit about how you talk nice to people that you disagree with, especially people in your own family. That's so important. And so here's some things that we're going to be talking about in upcoming weeks. We're going to be talking more about the absent generation, and next week I'm going to have a couple of friends of mine that have thought extensively about this issue of the absent generation. They're going to be guests on the show. I won't tell you their names right now. It'll be kind of a surprise next week. And then we'll talk a little bit about postmodern culture. Everybody uses the word postmodernism. Very few people really know what that's all about. We're going to be talking about that in future weeks. We're going to be talking about marks of authentic faith, authentic Christian faith in the 21st century. And that has to do with clearly communicating the gospel in a way that resonates with postmodern people, understanding a biblical message that's positive, that emphasizes the positive and not the negative, although the negative's there. Basic apologetics, or defending the Christian faith, social engagement in our culture and our times. We mentioned intergenerational mentoring, and then, of course, the experience, the daily experience of God's presence in our lives. That's so important, and it's something that we need to get back to if we don't have it already. Well, it's hard to believe that this hour has already gone by, but we're coming to a close of our first segment of 21st Century Faith. Melinda, it's been so great to have you with us. Thank you. I love you so much, dear, for being the guinea pig on this first segment of our show. We'll see you next time, same time, 6 to 7 on Wednesday nights right here on Central Valley Talk.
Thanks so much for joining us on today's 21st Century Faith. Mike Bogart would love to hear from you. So if you have any questions or you'd like to dialogue with Mike, please feel free to use the contact information you see on the screen. And we hope you'll come back and bring a friend to the next program of 21st Century Faith.
1244 North Echo, 3 houses north of Olive in the heart of the Tower District. Stop by this Saturday between 1 and 3 p.m. or call 486-6758 or go to MikeBriggsProperties.com. See all Tower District listings by all agents at TowerDistrictProperties.com.
CentralValleyTalk.com